Dobermans can make not just the bad guys afraid to walk through your front door, but they can even make you afraid to walk through your own front door. No, 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 no. Well, you're definitely not alone, because owners of all different types of breeds have often found themselves just perplexed about this question of how to stop their dog from jumping up on them or other people when they come to visit. And luckily, though, there are a few techniques that have been proven to be extremely effective with the Doberman breed specifically, often using their own instincts to your advantage. So here are the 3 most effective methods for dealing with a jumping issue on Dobermans specifically. I'm going to go through them and even demonstrate them on my own dog, Arlo, as we go. And then after that, I'm going to tell you what I think is the absolute best method, a method that I've been perfecting over about the last year or so that incorporates the best aspects from all these different techniques. And it's kind of a big deal, so you're not going to want to miss that. Method number 1 is the command method. Now try this first. This is the most popular method, but this one involves basically replacing the negative behavior with a positive behavior through the use of a command that your dog knows really well. They have to know the command really well because they're going to be distracted and excited with this new person coming through the door. So using a command that they have really dialed in, like sit, for example. Bed can work too, where you train them to go to their bed. But a lot of owners seem to prefer the sit command because a dog learns that very early on in life and tends to have a better chance of having that command really well nailed down. So with this method, after you walk through the door, you immediately give a command. In this case, we're going to use the sit command.
Hey, buddy, sit.
Once they sit, hold up your hand about a foot away from their nose and give a real firm stay command.
Stay.
As soon as your dog's obeyed you and done what you've asked, get down on their level and praise and reward, all while still making it clear that they are not to continue jumping on you. Now, one great way to improve the effectiveness of this method is to incorporate the use of some other way to mark their good behavior other than praise and reward, simply because that tends to get them really excited and they tend to continue to keep jumping. So a lot of people like to use a clicker, for example. As soon as they tell their dog to sit and stay and their butt hits the floor, they hit that clicker and give them a treat. It's a good idea to keep treats near the door so that you can have easy access to them and give it to your dog. Now, this method is probably the most popular, but it doesn't work on all Dobermans. So if you've been using this method for maybe about 2 weeks or so and you've seen 0 improvement in your dog, then your dog may not be responding to this method and it might be a good time to move on to one of the other methods. Number 2 is the knee up method. Now with this method, you're going to use your knee when you see the dog jumping as a way to kind of keep the dog spaced out from you and keep them from landing successfully up on you, which is what they're trying to do. They'll basically just run into your knee. This is another very popular method. With this method, when you walk through the door and it looks like your dog is about to jump, give them the firm off command. Then raise your knee up, not roughly or anything, but bring your knee up just enough to separate you from your dog. And you don't need to push your knee into their chest or anything. They'll usually just hit your knee on their own accord, and it'll be just uncomfortable for them and they won't be able to land successfully on you. And at any point the dog stops jumping or seems to pause jumping, is doing a good job, of course, praise and reward.
Good boy, yes. Good boy.
Now, a lot of owners like to fast track this method by including a turn to the side with their knee up when the dog jumps. So the dog jumps, you put your knee up, but as they come and hit the knee, you kind of turn to the side and it shuffles the dog off to the side. It's even less satisfying for the dog, and it really prevents them from landing their 2 front paws on you. And that's a key. If you can avoid them from landing their 2 front paws on you, it'll be kind of more frustrating than it is satisfying to the dog, and it'll discourage this future behavior. Number 3 is a wheelbarrow method. Now, for a lot of owners, when nothing else will work, this will be the one that works. For some reason, there's a small segment of Dobermans, it seems like, where the other ones won't work, but this will. This is kind of a different one, a little awkward, but basically with this method, when the dog jumps up, you grab their front paws and you kind of treat them like a wheelbarrow, and you almost do like a dance with them front and back a little bit to make them feel a little bit off balance and a little awkward. And again, for some Dobermans, it makes them feel awkward enough to want to avoid this behavior in the future. Now with this method, when you walk through the door and your dog jumps up on you, put out your hands and grab their front paws like a wheelbarrow. Then you're gonna do a dance of sorts with them for 5 to 10 seconds, moving them fairly quickly forward and backwards. It's pretty awkward, both for the owner and the dog, but it makes the dog feel, kind of off balance and they have no control of it. So it's a pretty unpleasant feeling for your dog. Now I thought it was important to mention this wheelbarrow method because sometimes, like I said, this one works when other ones won't. A lot of owners have reported that as little as doing this 2 times with their dog has been enough to discourage their dog and see a noticeable improvement in their behavior when someone walks through the door. Now the next method is my absolute favorite, and I call this the hands up, don't jump method. And I've been tweaking this method for about a year now, and I really think it's one of the best for Dobermans. And there's a reason why. It's because it incorporates the best aspects that appeal to the Doberman breed specifically the most from the command method, the knee method, and what's commonly referred to as the ignore method for stopping jumping. With this one, you give a very clear visual cue, which I have mentioned before on my channel is extremely important for Dobermans. A clear visual cue, a command, and 0 rewards for them until they perform the way that you want them to. Now with this method, as soon as you walk through the door, you put your hands up and you back up against a wall or a door so that the dog cannot get behind you. With your hands up, you have a very clear visual signal that you really don't use anywhere else in training. And if at any time during this they jump up, give your dog the off command, use the knee, and turn to the side, never allowing their front 2 paws to successfully land on you. Because remember, that's a win for them. Then give a very firm sit command.
Sit.
Now you stay still and stare straight ahead, not even making eye contact with your dog. This means you're not giving them any tension at all, not even direct eye contact, which for a Doberman specifically is significant, much more so than other breeds. And when your dog finally does obey and sits down and stays still, then you can give them praise and attention. If at any point during that praise they stand up and start jumping all over you, you stand right back up, put your hands right back up and stay still and repeat this until they sit again. Real quick guys, make sure you don't confuse your commands. You have off and you have down, which a lot of times people get confused. I use off with Arlo to get off of furniture, off of me. Down is to lay down. So I don't want to confuse the two when I come through the door, be telling him down if he's jumping up on me with the hands up, don't jump approach, because that could really confuse him. So make sure you're consistent with the commands that you give. Now, how do you get your dog to stop jumping on other people who come through your door? This is a hard one, guys, because you kind of need the person that comes through the door to be on the same page with you as far as training goes. So how do you do that? Because you're not going to like send your neighbor through a training course or show him this video, for example, of how to behave when he comes through the door. That's not realistic. But I think the best thing to do is talk to whoever comes through your door first, catch them on the front porch, and just tell them, hey, I'm really working hard to train my dog not to jump up on people. Can you do me a favor and just ignore him until he sits and he calms down for a second? Then you can pet him. If you could just drive that one point, ignore my dog until he sits down, if you could drive that point through the head of whoever's coming through the door, you're going to have a lot better chance of succeeding at this. And they don't need to know all the nuances. You're going to be there to maybe control the situation, but they should at least know the basics of ignoring your dog until they've been well behaved. Now, what happens if you do nothing about this behavior? Now, first, let me tell you where this behavior comes from. In the wild, dogs greet each other by licking each other's faces and their mouths. So really, when your dog's jumping up on you, he's just trying to greet you. And for Dobermans, especially when they're young pups, 8 weeks old, 10 weeks old, they're so cute. They're so adorable. And a lot of times they'll jump up on your shins looking for attention and you'll go, oh, he's so cute, and go down and pet him and give him love. Guess what? You just reinforced jumping up on you because this cute puppy jumped up, put his paws on you, and got love and attention. So you're now reinforcing this. So you can't really complain when they become a 100-pound dog and they're still jumping up on you looking for that attention because you basically train them to do that from their younger stages. So if you're catching this video while your dog's still a puppy, keep that in mind and try not to reinforce this bad behavior. But will they outgrow this on their own? No, they're not going to outgrow this on their own. There's Dobermans that are 12, 13 years old that still jump up on their owners because they were just never trained with this. So this is one that you're going to have to work at. Of course, when the dog is, into the maturity ages and through the puppy stages, it's going to be a little easier to train this because they're a little more thoughtful and they're a little more focused with any training that you give them. but they're not going to just naturally outgrow this. If you're trying to get your Doberman to understand and follow your commands in general, guys, I've done a very in-depth video, which is basically like a crash course on how to get a Doberman to understand your commands. It's absolutely free to anybody out on YouTube. Just take a look. It should be popping up in the corner of your screen. I've had some really, really good feedback on that video. A lot of people are telling me that it's helping them to instill some very useful commands in their Dobermans. So take a look at that. And like always, of course, I will link to it down in the description below. If you think this video has been useful, please take a second and hit that like button down below. Really helps support the channel, and I really appreciate it. Also, leave a comment. I love to hear your struggles and, well, more importantly, your successes with training your dog to not jump up on you or jump up on other people, and kind of what techniques you use. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your support on this channel. The community here is just amazing to me, and I wake up every day thinking about just how lucky I am to have your guys' support and trust. So thank you so much for watching. Of course, see you next time.